challenge? Because this thing was so physically demanding, but it was cool. But I know the challenge was shooting it, because it was just a challenge just to get to each set each day. 2 or 3 hours to get there, then you work, 2 or 3 hours to get back home.
Well, I think we kind of all knew what we were signing up for from the onset, but the weather conditions were the real struggle for all of us. Logistically, we had to go to far-off, untouched locations in the middle of the wilderness and do very intricate shots and stunts and sequences that involved lots of rehearsal. But it was the changing climate that always was a struggle for us. One day we'd come in and, you know, an entire sequence that we thought was going to be in snow, there'd be no snow for weeks, or the opposite would happen.
Or it was underwater.
Or it was underwater.
Completely washed out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did on land and water. It was a lot of different elements you had to deal with on the shoot. But because it took place in the time period that it took place in, what did you do to get the mindset of how someone would actually live through that sort of situation back then? It's a little different if you get lost in the woods today as opposed to going through that scenario back then.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, everything was, catered to deal with that period in time. So when we arrived, all the elements from design, props, costume, it was focused exclusively on this particular project. So once you got immersed in that world, it was then, a question of just picking up as many small pieces as possible to fill out your side picture on character. So the mindset happened, I think, started to develop as soon as we arrived on the ground, because it was, corralled to create that.
Right. And we had a lot of people on set that were advisors for us that were very nostalgic about this time period and almost looked at like the mountain man as a spiritual philosophy almost, their integration with nature. But I say it was kind of like doing a science fiction movie because there's so little written about this time period in America. It's kind of like the Amazon. It was a lawless, untouched landscape. And so we really relied on fur trappers' journals, Native American stories. There were no historians back then, so we had to sort of create this from etchings, so to speak. But it was really the advisors that helped us a lot to understand how they would survive under these harsh conditions and what their mentality was like.